Hey everyone.
Hello.
Morning. I think we're
Hello, good
waiting
morning.
for two folks. Yeah,
Alo and Steffi, I believe.
awesome. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think we'll wait maybe like one more minute for Steffi. Otherwise, we can get started just because we got a lot to do and it's recorded. So, cool. Yeah, I guess we can get started. Um, Welcome to this week. Yeah, today we're going to do demos, issues. We have actually, I think two learning module discussions. And if those run over, I will proactively create a Slack thread just so we can continue the conversation if people don't get to say everything they want to say. I want to give you that opportunity. So cool. Let's start with demos. Which pair would like to go first?
Aloe and Hannah. Yeah, you two can go first.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll share my screen in a second, but our issue was to estimate the next purchase date for the item that the user would be purchasing. So after they check off the item, based on how many times they've purchased the item, we wanted to figure out when the next purchase date would be. So just share my screen. Nick, I think you'll have to share or enable screen sharing.
I just did. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Thank you. Okay, everyone can see that okay? Yes, okay, cool. Okay, so I added this item just before the meeting, and I'm going to switch between Firebase and the shopping list so you can kind of see what's happening. So I added this item this morning. It was created March 10th. Hasn't been clicked yet, so last purchased is null, and the date next purchased is March 17th because I selected soon as the time that I think I would purchase it again. So that's going to be 7 days from today, which is the 17th. So if I go back to the item and click it, come through, the last purchase date was today. And based on the function that we're using to calculate the next purchase date, which Ala will explain in a bit more detail, if the item has been purchased 2 times or less, it'll just show the same date basically every single time. But if I were to go through and change this to here, update the date, come back, click it again. Oh, it's only been purchased twice, that's why. Sorry, let me change this again. Say 6th date. Look at it again. Ala, what am I doing wrong?
Sorry, I wasn't actually looking at the screen. Can you go ahead and click it again?
Because I purchased it 4 times. It's still showing the date as the 17th.
Can you change the date for when it was last purchased? Because if it's consistently the same time, it's always going to be the same because it's taking in the same amount of data. You want to go ahead and make like another item and see?
Sure. So I want to change this one to go backwards, correct?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So that's 1 time. Now this is the 2nd time. But this was actually supposed to change to show the same date that you had purchased it if it was 2 times or less, right?
Yeah. I'm not sure why the data is looking like this.
Let me just try to run this locally and see if it will be different. I already ran git pull, but I'll just do it again.
Hannah, are you running that off of the preview?
Yeah, the deploy one.
Oh, right. I forgot that we merged everything. Okay, yeah, this worked for me when I was testing, so.
Yeah. Hold on, let me just really quickly see if adding if it's working here locally for me. So soon. Okay. Okay, there's spices. So it should reset to if I refresh.
Can you try and do a different date? Like you're putting it in as the soon. If you want to try putting something in as like a different one.
Sure.
Look at that one. That one has April 9th.
That's because I picked 30 days, right?
Yeah, I was just excited that it had a different day.
Yeah, it's still not showing.
So don't you have to click the checkbox again over there to have it update? Because
Yeah,
you've
but
only
previously it was like if you'd only purchased it once and only purchased it twice, it would just like show the current date for like date next purchased.
mhm.
Yeah, for which it didn't really make sense to me, but this date was supposed to update to basically the same date as you had purchased it if it was 2 purchases or less. But if I go and look at for the 3rd time, it should be showing a different date, but it's not. It was working before.
Yeah, when I tested this, it definitely changed the next purchase date when I manually changed the last purchase date.
Let me try
So
and demo
that's
on my
strange.
computer real quick.
Ella, you want to try doing it?
Yeah, I'm gonna just try locally. I'm not gonna share my screen yet and see
Okay.
if it
Hmm.
Mine looks like it's working. So I don't know
Hmm.
why yours isn't working. But it is working on mine.
Oh no. Okay, well, do you want to do you want to
I
share your
guess
screen
I
then?
am doing it locally. I wasn't doing it on the deployed. Let me try the deployed real quick.
Okay. Well, I am doing it locally now and it's not working either.
Do you want to try maybe clearing your local storage? I don't know if that's going to do anything, but
My local storage?
yeah, I don't know. Sometimes it keeps weird things.
Let me
That's a
just
good point. Danielle just said that date.now uses a computer set time. It could be an issue with the computer itself.
hmm.
I also, slightly unrelated but related, I was trying to figure out the checkbox, like how to uncheck it and stuff, and I was like labbing that last night. And I was running into a little bit of an issue with the date.now, and so I like kind of rewrote the function in like a remote um branch that I was gonna propose we look at some point to maybe update the functionality we currently have. But slightly side note.
Okay, that seems to be working now. Um, Maybe I did need to clear my local storage. I don't know. Okay, well now you can see that. Sorry, I'm not working off of this one. This one. So I clicked it after I just created it, and now it's changing the date next purchase to be the same day as today, which is correct. And then if I go back here and change it to the 7th, update it, come back, click it again, it should show the same date, which it's not. Right, Aloe, it should show the same date as today still.
Uh, you're on the second purchase, so I feel like yes, but I might be misremembering. Let me go ahead and do it one more time. So that looks accurate.
Mm-hmm. It was only that second one, which I thought it was supposed to stay the same, but
I think it's just maybe the first purchase. Like I think when you click it the first time, yeah.
was it just the first one? Is that what that function? I would
Well,
like
less than
this.
2 because it's not less than or equal to 2, so it should be less than 2. So just the first one, I believe.
Oh, just the first one. Okay. Okay, so it's working correctly. Sorry, I told Aloe I'm so bad. Like I get really confused with numbers and stuff like this. So like he helped me, or sorry, they helped me quite a lot with this. So yeah. It's working correctly. But they will do a better job of explaining the code, so I'll hand it over.
Okay, cool. Let me pull this up.
Yeah, that's part of demoing is the moment where, oh crap, this doesn't work. So it's better to do it in this environment and feel the heat than at an interview. So great job so far.
Okay. Okay, so I guess the first thing that I want to show actually isn't this. I want to show the calculate estimate. What I want, which isn't our code, but it's going to help explain our code. So that's why I'm going to show it. Which also, there's a typo on the NPM. Okay, so the calculate estimate function that we're running, it basically gets 3 parameters. So the previous estimate, which it put in the number 14. I don't think there's really like an actual reason that it has to be 14 in theory. We would be using the number that the like user has already inputted based on like when they set the item the first time. Day since last transaction is going to be a number. So whenever it was last bought to the day that it is currently, it's going to, calculate, or the days in between that is like that is what creates this number. And then the total purchases is obviously just the total but at this moment in time, it's the total amount of times it's been clicked. So if the total purchases is less than 2, meaning if it is 1, it is basically saying there's not enough data to be able to give like an accurate calculation. So it's just going to return the days since last transaction. And then what all of this really means is, so between each purchase, right? So if you have 3 days between this purchase and you have 4 days between this purchase and you have 6 days between this purchase, it's going to add up all of those numbers and it's going to divide them by the amount of purchases. And then that number at the end, it's going to is going to be the like estimated time until like the next purchase, right? So it basically is just tracking the amount of days between purchases and then adding them all up to then make an average. So that's what this function does. And so then what we did is, so we created some variables so that we could input them as the parameters within this calculate estimate functionality. And so basically we're checking to see if so we're checking to see if the date last purchase is true, and then we're subtracting it from the date next purchase so that we can get a kind of time frame between our 2 dates. And then, or I guess that's what we're doing here. And then for the previous estimate, we're doing the same thing, but from the date that was previously given as our estimate. So those are kind of the variables that we're creating so that they can be inputted here. Total purchases is being passed through here. And then we are updating our item and we pass the parameter of that next purchase estimate here, which nope, I'm on the same thing. There we go. Okay, so we have our update item here in our Firebase, which is taking the parameters for the path, the ID, the date last purchase, and then the next purchase estimate. So we are kind of calling the collection of items or finding the items by ID, and then we're updating that item by ID. So we're taking the date last purchase, which is being passed in from our item. And then for the date next purchased, we're using the get future date function from, I believe, here. So this is taking the date currently, the offset. So that offset is supposed to be the that purchase estimate. So basically, it's if the app is telling us that, you know, we're estimating it's going to be 6 days to the next purchase, that 6 days is going to be this offset, so that it can give us so it's taking the next purchase estimate as the parameter so that it can give us that the date of when we want to purchase it, because currently it is a number, and so that will kind of factor into being a date. And then we are incrementing the total purchases by 1. So that was our problem.
Awesome. Great explanation. Good job sweating through the demo. Nice teamwork there. Yeah, I don't think I have any questions or suggestions. Does anyone else have any before we move on? Cool. All right. Emilio, since you're solo today, I'll feel free to do both the code and the demo, or whichever one you prepared is good with me.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Thank you. Yeah, so I will be presenting the live app and then just kind of do like a bird's eye overview of the code. So just give me a second to set this up. Okay. All right. So for Stephanie and my for our issue this week that we did together, we created error messages to display when a user attempts to add a new item to an existing list in a variety of instances. So I'll demonstrate these scenarios for you. We'll be using this demo list that I created just for today's presentation. So our app shows an error if the user attempts to submit an empty item. So we'll test that now. So there's the error that it throws if the item is empty, just telling the user why it is that they can't enter a blank item. And our app displays an error if the user attempts to submit a name for the shopping item that's identical to an existing item. So if we see here on the list page, there's cheese. We try to type in cheese here and enter it, it will throw an error that the item's already in the list. If the user tries to submit a new item that has extra punctuation or spacing or is in a different casing, this will that should not have worked. I don't know why
You
it
had
did.
3 E's, so that's why.
Got it. Thank you, Elo. So let's try that again. Yeah, so if the user adds another letter, the app treats it as a different word. So plurals are allowed. But in this case, we're trying it again. So cheese, with punctuation, a different casing, and a space, and the app throws an error that the item is already in the list. So those are the three scenarios where our error messages are displayed based on the user input. And based on the last aspect of our issues acceptance criteria, we ensure that the user's exact original input was saved in the Firestore database. So if, for example, we want to type in, let's see, chips, we'll do chips and we'll give it some like weird casing. That'll be added. And then if we look on the actual Firestore database, this should show up. Yeah, so chips is displayed here with the weird casing that I used in the front end. But that was also an aspect of our issue we needed to adhere to. And that concludes our live app demonstration. So I can go ahead and talk about our code. Let me share my screen. Okay, so we primarily worked out of the add item component, and what we did was we wrote code for each type of error message, which I just described in the live walkthrough. Anytime the user would enter any kind of name that was forbidden based on the error parameters, the app would throw alerts. So we have alerts set up based on those specific types of instances. And what we did here, what we spent a lot of time trying to figure out was trying to make the name of the actual shopping item, trying to get it to match whatever was in the Firestore database in order to like account for any punctuation, any spacing, any casing, any differences in casing. So we set up this regex function, this regex expression here, to take the user's input and essentially convert it to be a lowercase type of lowercase version of that input without any spacing, without any punctuation, and that way it would then be able to match the same type of version in the Firestore database, so that even if the input, a previous input, was saved in the Firestore database in a different case or with a punctuation or with a space or something like that, both the version in the Firestore database and the version of the user's input were both converted based on this regex expression and then compared. And if they matched, the app would throw an error. So that's how we resolved that problem. The other issue was in the Firestore database, there was a lowercase method that we had to remove in order to comply with this issue, and we incorporated we essentially with our regex expression here in the front end accounted for allowing the user to enter their input in any casing that they chose. So that concludes our code walkthrough.
Ooh, great job. I always really love your explanations, Emilio. To the point and yeah, just straightforward.
Thanks.
Yeah. I don't think I have any notes on that. Anyone else have a question or comment, suggestion? Cool. All right. I guess we're ready to go into issues for next week. If you want to take the wheel, Jeremiah.
Sure. Let's see. Okay. So we are on week 6, March 10th through 16th. So we are working on issues 12 and 13. So issue 12, as a user, I want to be able to delete items from my shopping list so that my list isn't cluttered with items I don't want to buy in the future. So users should be able to delete things that they don't have a use for buying anymore. Or from the issue that we just completed, they might, make a mistake in the casing or the way that they enter an item. May switch brands, that kind of thing. So we want them to be able to delete things. So the AC is the list item component should render a button that allows the user to delete an item from their list when clicked. Clicking the button prompts the user to confirm that they really want to delete the item. So either an alert or something in that realm where they have to confirm that they actually want to do the destructive action. And then the delete item function in API/firebase.js has been filled out and deletes the item from the Firestore database. So the function should already be there, but it's not filled out. So that's the main thing that's gonna be worked on. So activating the delete button should show a confirmation dialog. We want to give users a chance to confirm the destructive action. And then it might be tempting to create your own modal dialog. But modals are, it's hard to handle accessibility for them. It's a little bit easier with the like the HTML dialog because that's gotten some updates over time, but yeah, so that's issue 12. This one's gonna be Aloe and Steffi. Do either of you have any questions?
I have a question that's kind of a little bit more overarching than just this, so feel free to like pick it apart. But based on like the way that our users would interact with this, I feel like the way that it's set up with having the managed list as like its own thing is like really bad for the way that you would want to interact with an app. So like I'm curious if this is something that we would want to kind of start to do with this, or if it's something that we want to wait until like that final where we're all kind of working together on like UI. But like a thing that I'm kind of like seeing in my head is like, so we have like our list page, right? And on our list page, we can check our items. And then on the manage list page, I feel like it should also render all of our items so that they can see it. And then on that page, they would be able to like, you know, delete the item or edit the item or, whatever they want to do on that manage list page. And like currently the fact that we can't see the items makes it, I just feel like it's like a bad experience. So I'm curious if that's something that we want to start now or yeah.
Sure. So Danielle, Nick, if either of you have different thoughts on this, let's we can talk about it. But uh, the apps that I've been through, the manage item, it wasn't always manage item. It was usually just like add items. So this is our first time where it's, doing some of those other things too. But a lot of the time it does get more integrated with the list itself. Like in one of them, or in mine, in the one that I did, we actually just got rid of the add item page and we just added the features to the list itself. So it was all on one page. Um, and we had like a drawer pop out when you wanted to add an item, so it wasn't always there. Um,
Well, that was like another thing that I was thinking is just kind of like implementing that all on the same because
mm,
it's cleaner, I think, and also like as long as you're not making it super cluttered, but also it just like makes for a better navigation experience.
So yeah, that or what you were suggesting where it's on the one page, but that's where all of the editing happens. So that way the user doesn't like accidentally you know, delete an item from their main page and they're not expecting to, or maybe having like an edit mode or something. Like all of those are, I think, good ideas. And I would think about them, and then next week is when like the styling and like that those more creative things start happening. So I think that's when we would want to start tacking those things on. Um,
Cool. That answers my question then.
and then any other questions? Okay, cool. So issue 13. So this one is one of the more detailed and probably like a little bit harder issues from the project. So as a user, I want to view my list in the order of how soon I am going to want to buy the items. Um, so it's clear what I need to buy soon. So it's essentially taking the list right now, which I think is probably just sorted in the order that items were added to the list, because I think that's the way it's returned from Firestore. So we're going to take that and manipulate it so that way they're sorted in order of how soon you're going to want to buy them. And they should be sorted into 4 groups. So need to buy soon is 7 days or fewer. Kind of soon is 7 to 30 days, and not soon is 30 days or more. And then this one is based on the last date you bought it, not when you need to buy it. So inactive would be 60 days have passed since the last date that you purchased it. So to implement this feature, you're going to have to create some UI elements so that way users know how the items are sorted. And then also there's going to have to be some logic to do the sorting itself. Um, and then, yeah, feel free to ask questions if you have them. And you can also reach out to the other pair if you have questions about like the implementation or that kind of thing, or those will probably come up in code review as well. So items in the list are shown with an indicator that says whether they should be bought soon, kind of soon, not soon, or inactive. And for accessibility, the urgency indicator should not solely rely on color. So color can be a part of it, but it should not be the only thing. And in API/Firestore.js, there should be a new compare purchase urgency function, and it's going to do the following things. So it's going to sort inactive items and put them last. It's going to sort items in ascending order based on the days until next purchase, and then it's going to sort items with the same days until next purchase alphabetically. And then I'm sure you all will do this because you're overachievers, but there's a stretch goal. So if you get through all of this, then you should consider what happens when date next purchased has passed, but the item isn't inactive. So if I was supposed to buy the item yesterday, but I haven't bought it yet, what should that look like? So you would extend this compare purchase urgency to have an overdue item, and that would go overdue category, and that would go at the very top of the list. And that would also show up in your UI. So there's a lot to do. So this section has some ideas on how to approach it. There's that get days between dates function in the utils folder. That's going to be helpful for this because that's how you can find out that number of days. That's really important for the different categories. And then the timestamp from Firebase versus the date from JavaScript is something you're also going to have to keep track of, which variable is currently what. And then for the UI, it is really tempting to use colors or icons. So those are fine, but if anybody's using a screen reader or that kind of thing, you still want them to be able to tell, when items are going to be needed, when they're going to need to purchase those items again. So that's something to think about. For colorblind also could make that hard for them to use the app. And then icons, you're gonna have to teach the users what they mean. So this suggests that you just use labels like the soon, kind of soon, and that kind of thing, and use it alongside color. or icons if you want to do that. And you can change the text to be, you know, kind of soon as 3 words. So if you had like one word that kind of meant the same thing, um, that may or may not be more pleasant. And then sorting the list. So we're sorting by several criteria. So you're gonna have to think about how the sort function in JavaScript works. It's really good to read about how this works because uh, it's not always intuitive, and having to sort it by 3 different things is something you can do with that one function. So figuring out how to do that is going to help you out. And yeah, so you're gonna maybe want to learn more about compare functions or freshen up on those. Okay, and then this one's going to be Hannah and Emilio. What are your questions, or do you have any?
I have no questions right now.
Yeah, none for now.
Okay, cool.
I have a question for them.
Okay.
So in the notes part, this is the get days between dates function that does not exist. That was part of our AC criteria last week with Hannah and I, and it didn't exist. So we used the get future date and then kind of had to write our own functionality. But I
Okay.
don't know if that was like previous to the last projects before y'all updated it, or
Good
if we're supposed to
question.
write that.
I'm not actually sure. So it's something I will look into and get back to you on. But the I guess like the idea, if it's not in there, would just be like to figure out just like between using the timestamp and the JavaScript date, like turning that into like a number, kind of like that npm function, and then based on whatever that number is, figuring out, you know, which one of these things it fits under, um, just like a number comparison, and then having that for both the date that you last purchased the item for this one, and then the number of days until you need to buy it again for the other 3. And then based on that, that's when you would want to you know, put it in whatever category. And then it should probably also have like you should be able to have like a negative number, or um you know, represent it in some way where if you do go for the stretch goal, it's clear whether or not the item's overdue. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, cool.
Right. Last thing we have is the discussion about the 2 learning modules. I think it was what to include on your LinkedIn profile and navigating finances during a career change. About 15 minutes left. Does anyone have any like heavy preference on which one we should cover first, just for time? Okay. Let's start with the LinkedIn one, and then if we don't finish, we'll do it in a thread async. Yeah, one thing that I wanted to mention about the LinkedIn reviews is there is a hashtag LinkedIn review Slack channel that you can join. And when your LinkedIn is ready to be reviewed, you can just drop your link in there, and a mentor or a mentor-like person in the community will review it for you. I think I saw a few of you have done that already. So great job being on top of things, but definitely take advantage of that, because that's really helpful to get other people's opinions, because everyone will say something different. But anyone have any like high-level thoughts or questions just on that topic?
I have just like a comment, like for anyone who hasn't had time to update their LinkedIn yet. So when you're doing your LinkedIn like update, there are there are two sections to link your GitHub projects. The first section is in the like featured section in your LinkedIn, which is near the top. And then there's another section called projects where you can link your GitHub projects as well. The instructional video we received stated to do both. I reached out to Shelly, who's like in charge of like the LinkedIn review channel. She said it's optional you can put it in one place or you can put it in both. She said she personally did one place. So just putting that out there.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Yeah, very much like a resume review. It's like it's great to get as many perspectives and opinions as possible, but depending on what each hiring manager is looking for, you know, one thing that's good to someone might be bad to someone else. So good to keep that in mind. Yeah, I think the big part is like just to have it filled out. Because even if you're not like applying through LinkedIn, if you're going through a referral, I know like being on hiring panels, a lot of times people will go to LinkedIn as like that first point of contact. And if possible, like if you're comfortable making it important parts of your profile public as well, so people can view it, I think. But I know everyone has different circumstances, so I'm not going to say 100% do that. If it's a personal safety issue, don't do that. But
I had a quick question. On our LinkedIn profile, we upload our resume, right? Or some version of our resume. Is that a part of it? Because I know that every job description has like a different, like you change the resume title and kind of like cater what's on it depending on what the actual job is. How do we kind of manage like we post on there kind of what we like the best, or I don't know how to kind of manage that, because I've like made 8 resumes with different kind of keywords and things like that, but I'm not sure which one is kind of like, how do I manage that on one platform, kind of, or what did you guys do?
Are
Yeah.
you saying that the resume, like it's like a document upload that's on your LinkedIn, or
I
just
don't know. That's what I'm asking is, does that exist, or do we do that? And then if we do, how do we choose, or how do we like cater that to a more open, um, kind of, anyone would see that and still think that you might fit.
I think that the LinkedIn page is essentially like your resume. So there'll be like the work history, and you're putting all of your work history that you would have on your resume, but like on your LinkedIn. And then your like tagline or whatever it's called, your like on your page when you pop it up, it'll be like, Aloe Nelson has like software developers, whatever I have it listed as. That's kind of the title that you're putting in, which I think, is that what you're talking about, that you kind of change based on like what resume? And then I feel like there's not really the opportunity for like the minute changes within the like job descriptions. So like if you're applying for like an analytics job versus a UI UX, or whatever it is, there is going to be that like discrepancy. But in theory, you would also be sending your resume, so hopefully they would be looking at that as well.
yeah, Stephanie, on the question of how you deal with how you tailor the resume. I think for your LinkedIn, whether you're uploading something or just having the bullets in your different jobs that are listed in the experience section, I think you would want to think about what some just like a base core part of your resume where you have the items that you essentially always include. no matter what the job is, and only put that stuff on your LinkedIn. And maybe, you know, just think about having like the strongest, most broadly relevant bullet points on your LinkedIn, and that's the, you know, the stuff that you're always going to be including in every resume anyway. And then when you apply to different jobs, you are adding stuff onto that for that job, or even, you know, changing the language. I don't think that hiring managers or anyone is going to notice or care much if you know, if they see your resume and then looked at your LinkedIn and the bullets don't exactly line up, as long as you're not just changing, you know, the facts of what's in there. That, I don't think that should be an issue.
Thanks, guys.
Cool. Yeah, really good questions. Yeah, those are the same questions I had myself. It's probably more about consistency. Like if you had title A at company X, you want to still have title A everywhere. So, but yeah. Any other like thoughts, comments, questions? Could be specific to you as well, because it might help the group before moving on. Cool. Yeah, and once you get to doing your LinkedIn, if you have questions that come up, like definitely use that review. That is definitely for you to get feedback. You can ask in our Slack channel as well. I'm sure everyone here will be happy to give you their opinion and thoughts, because we all want you to be successful. So
I do think that we should all go and endorse each other. Go
yeah,
through our
that's a good
interests,
point.
just go to each person's page and just endorse all of the stuff that feels applicable.
I think that was a part of Career Lab at one point explicitly, but yeah, that's a really good idea. And then there's also like the references where you can write up like a small blurb about each other too. It's also a good thing to do.
Yeah, very good points. Yeah, we should definitely make a point to do that this week. I can put a reminder in Slack. But yeah, the second one was about navigating your finances during a career change. Just curious if anyone had any like thoughts or questions regarding that.
I didn't watch it. I was like, I for whatever reason was already like scoffing at it. It was just so hard. I was like, I don't think there's going to be anything in there that will help me. But that was my reaction. I don't know if anyone did get help from it. If you did, I would love to hear it.
I also didn't watch it, but that's because I'm currently in a financial crisis. And I was like, I have other financial things that I need to worry about outside of watching this video. So
I'll say when I did this program, that specific topic, this is part of like Career Lab, I didn't find super useful, but I think it's has some useful things to like refer back to later, you know, after you're already in your new job. So it can feel like when you're looking at the stuff in there, it's like, all right, I like putting the cart before the horse here, but there's some good stuff in there to refer back to. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, one thing, actually, that does kind of bring up a thought. I can put this link in our Slack channel, but I know as someone who's worked at a lot of startups, a lot of times they'll try to substitute equity for like a high base salary. And I have opinions about that I won't necessarily share because it's not constructive. But I think it's important to like understand, what equity you're getting to be able to make a good decision when you're negotiating. So, and this guy, I don't know, he's like big on tech Twitter. I don't really know how good he is, but this is like a pretty interesting kind of deep dive into equity and, different types of equity. It's a lot to think about, but sometimes I kind of think it's not always. I try to not assume bad intent, but sometimes I feel like it is kind of purposefully designed to be like confusing. So yeah, the best thing you can do to fight that is to be educated on it. So yeah, I'll post this. Yeah, I just put it in our Slack channel. I'm kind of into that stuff, so I thought it was kind of interesting, but some of you might fall asleep, but it might be a good thing to like kind of read to kind of get ready for your first job offer, especially if it's at a startup, because those can be confusing. Yeah. I think we've got about 3 minutes left. Any other like thoughts, comments, questions? Yeah, not necessarily during a career change, but I feel like after your career change, my personal opinion, which you can take or leave, is it's important to share your salary privately with your colleagues that you trust. And by colleagues, I don't necessarily mean like people that you directly work with, like it could be someone that you met at a meetup, because it can be really helpful to know, how you compare to someone else and experience and skills and what they're getting paid. Because then I think a lot of times when I started those conversations with trusted friends, we ended up getting each other bigger paychecks. So definitely consider that.
But back to a point that I was talking about earlier, is not on this topic, but I am attempting to work on the checkbox. I have it mostly working, except currently it nullifies the data, so I'm trying to figure out how to change that so that it doesn't just like get rid of all of our data, because you don't want it to do that. But I have a function written in the Firebase file to uncheck the item. So I'm working on it in a little test branch of my own. But when I get it to a point of where it works, I will let people know.
Will you catch me up on that? I think I missed
Oh yeah.
the beginning
So
of that.
currently when you check something, if you go to check it again, it updates our data, but it leaves the check. And so
Oh, the
ideally,
24 hours. The
yeah,
24 hours thing, right? Okay.
but ideally we would have it so that someone could uncheck it as well. So that they checked it, but oh, maybe they checked the wrong one, right? But right now if you check it, it won't uncheck until the 24 hours. So I was trying to get it so that it has like the option of the 24 hours, or someone could manually uncheck it. And I got it to work, but then what it was doing is it was persisting the data. So every time you would check it, even if you were unchecking it, it would still add to the data. And so then I was like, okay, well, how do I make it so that it doesn't do that when you're unchecking? But then right now, if you uncheck it, instead it just kind of nullifies it. And so I'm getting there.
Okay. Thanks.
Cool. Yeah, and then I think to Amelia's point, I think it might have been like last week about like how it was easier for just having one code reviewer. I think I might make the executive decision, or if you disagree with this, next week I think we should continue with our like, current like get the other pair to approve and then one person to approve. But I kind of think once we get into the like individual, no issues, like you're working on styling, I kind of think it might be cool to just have like one approver and then we can merge. What do you guys or what do you all think about that?
Would that be including mentors or devs? Like just anyone?
Yeah, anyone who's not you, anyone who didn't submit
Yeah.
the PR. Yeah. Yeah, that would include the three of us.
Cool. I agree to that if everyone does.
I also agree.
Yeah, I'm good at, yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
Cool. Yeah, the reason why we have so many approvers is like just so you all get practice like giving feedback and receiving feedback, but it is a little less reflective of reality of what it will be like. But yeah, this week we'll do like the kind of what we've been doing, and then yeah, all the weeks after, I think just one person that's not you approving your own code is probably better for us to so you can get more stuff in. Cool. All right. Jeremiah is the code reviewer this week, and Nick is going to be holding office hours. I put that in our channel. It's pinned. But yeah, otherwise, I think we're ready to go into the week. Thanks for a nice sync.
Yeah,
Thank
nice work,
you.
everyone.
Bye all.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.
Good.